There are 100 versions of what might be wrong and why you go, and you may be simply one of those people who need some space when things get too much. You don't do this for no good reason.
By being away so much, I'm only realising now how much I've missed, and it shocks me. It really shocks me. It is actually quite sad to think how much I've missed. It's funny, for the first time I want to go home.
Apparently, the entire office had been prepared to come out looking for me the following week if they hadn't found me at the weekend. There was going to be a gang of them taking it street by street, hotel by hotel, but they found me simply because of a strange series of events. 2 of them had been walking about that square and had thought they'd seen me, but they'd been told by the police to call them first and not to go up to me in person, and so they did, and the police came looking.
I started thinking about my children and pining for them. I was only away for a week, and even then the feeling of guilt was enormous. For leaving this place for a week and then coming back to all the mess, all the debris I'd left. I had so much guilt to contend with.
I was numb when I came home. I wasn't embarrassed. I didn't feel guilty about what I'd done. It was more, shit. I haven't done what I wanted to do. And it was almost as if you had to be put back into the same position again. So I haven't achieved anything. And everybody wants you to explain yourself, and I couldn't because I didn't know how I felt. I just didn't want to be there. I wanted to be somewhere different, somebody different.
In terms of coming home, I didn't know how they would react when I eventually knocked on the door. I knew that they would have had the police in touch with them. Actually, they just said, "Thank goodness you are here," and they were really pleased to see me. I think sometimes after you've been missing, the attention you get when you first return is strange. People won't broach certain subjects, and they sort of leave things alone. There's a lot of attention and happiness and promises of things being different, and that they'll help you. It's like you don't want to burst that bubble by actually saying anything. You don't want to burst that bubble, that happy feeling, and muddle the promises. You don't want to spoil it, and for it all to end.
When the police did get in touch, I remember he said, "Look, it's okay, don't worry, you're not in trouble or anything." That's the bit that stood out for me, because I was really worried, and when I saw the policeman waiting by my bed, he put me at ease by saying that straight off. I do remember that made an immediate difference.
As for my friends, I thought some of them would be quite angry, but if they were, they hid it well, because all they ever showed me was great relief that they'd found me. Not one bad, not one angry word was ever said, which was so nice.
When you come back, you've a load of things that you may not want to face, which could be a good reason not to come back. It's quite daunting. That pressure is not what someone who disappears wants to have when they come back. What they want is not family, but a neutral person, an ear.
The police turned up, and I can't remember really what words they used. They asked where I'd been, but at that point I was emotionally shattered, and I just wanted to go to sleep. For days afterwards I was still the same, and I was on the verge of, I can still walk out. Nothing's going to change, and despite being back, I still feel trapped and suffocated.
I never ever talked to anybody about it, but you need someone who's interested, and I think that's quite important.
My friends and colleagues didn't push it when I did get back to work months later. They didn't ask me lots of difficult questions. They just sat back and talked about normal things. They didn't sort of say, "Why did you do it? Where did you go? What were you thinking?"
You want people to understand why you've gone, and the coming home bit, that's quite hard. You've got to think about it all at some point. Going missing didn't solve anything. If I had just stayed there and talked things through with the relevant people in the first place, it might have been okay.
I did have a need to talk to someone about my experience, and although the nurses spoke briefly to me, it was actually my consultant that really helped. The doctor helped me to see that the journey was positive because I didn't kill myself. Afterwards, when I was calmer, I had longer conversations with the doctor and the nurses about disappearing, and by sharing that with them, the burden lifted and the need for it lifted. So talking is really, really important, but it needs time. Just having an initial period of silence was important when I tried to work out what I wanted to say about going missing. Then the doctor asked me questions in such a way that it made it easy to open up to him.
That's the hardest thing. Coming home again. Going away is easy.
Being listed as a missing person is something I don't think people know how to talk about when you return.
For me, it's important to talk about being missing with someone who understands.